Commissioner Stokes.
Here.
Commissioner Kirkley.
Here.
Commissioner Mercer.
Here.
Commissioner McGann. Here.
All right.
We have a quorum.
So if everybody will stand, we will do our Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is up there in the corner. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so we're going to look over the minutes from our 9:25 meeting. If everybody's had a chance to kind of look over that, if there's any discussion, or do we have a motion?
I have a motion to approve the meetings.
We have a motion to approve the minutes. We have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Ware.
Yes.
Commissioner Egner.
Yes.
Commissioner Vidal's not here. Commissioner Stokes. Abstain.
I don't think you would hear it.
I have time.
Okay.
You were here though.
Yeah, I want to read the fine details.
Commissioner Kirkley.
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer.
Here. Yes.
Commissioner McGann. Yes.
All right, we'll move on. Number 4, there was no old business, so we'll move on to new business. Case number 2023-21 SDFP. It's a request for a 51-lot subdivision final plat known as Ravenwood Section F for single-family resident development located north of Nail Road West within the address block of 4,000 to 4,500 within the city of Horn Lake by Nail at Horn Lake Road, or at Horn Lake LLC, developer and owner, and Nick Cruen with Civil Link Engineer Company for land zone is a PUD consisting of approximately 16.65 acres plus or minus. And I will turn this over to staff for their presentation.
All right, thank you, Chairman. I'll turn this over to the Assistant Director who's been working on this particular case and present the PowerPoint this evening.
All right, so we're going to start with the vicinity map with the zoning. This is a PUD. Slightly to the east, there's some C1 and commercial zoning and residential R8 zoning to the northeast of that. To the north of the current Ravenwood Section F is more of the Ravenwood neighborhood, which is also in that same PUD. And then to the south is AR, undeveloped land. So next slide, please. So this is the actual detailed drawing of the plat lots. Just a zoomed in picture of the actual lots there. And I just tried to get the all the 51 lots into that one screen right there. Next slide, please. And so just for some background, if y'all wanted to know, these are the plat notes. I just added this in there so you can see everything that is listed on the plat. And next slide, please. And so just a quick overview. It's PUD. Those were 51 lots for single-family houses. No parcels within the 500-year floodplain or the 100-year floodplain or the floodway. There's 2 access points from the subdivision, and they're going over towards Nail Road connecting to it. The water will be provided by Walls Water Association, and then the sewer will be provided by City of Horn Lake. And the right-of-way throughout the entire subdivision is 50 feet. All right, next slide. So just to be thorough, in case y'all weren't able to read through it, I'm just going to have to read through everything here. And this is just setting up the background of why why we're having to do this. So, Article 1 in general, Section 34-1, this chapter shall be known and may be cited and referred to as the Land Subdivision Ordinance of Horn Lake, Mississippi. The purpose of this chapter is to provide the coordination of streets within subdivisions with other existing or planned streets or with other features or lots or tracts for requirements of the preliminary and final plats, for minimum standards of physical improvements in new subdivisions, for adequate open spaces for traffic, utilities, firefighting apparatus, recreation, light and air, and for distribution of population and traffic, all of which are to improve the health, safety, and general welfare of the community. So it's not just to look at just the plain details, but also to think about the reasons why and how this actually affects traffic and livability. The next slide, please. And this is just the major subdivision definition. Means that this is for all subdivisions not classified as minor subdivisions, including but not limited to subdivisions of 4 or more lots. So that's what this counts as. Or of any size subdivision requiring the construction of any new street or the extension of any municipal facilities or the creation of any public improvements. Next slide, please. Platting of subdivisions, major subdivision procedure. The subdivider of a major subdivision shall submit a sketch plat and a preliminary plat, except where waived by the Director of the Planning Commission in accordance with the specifications of this article. Upon approval of the sketch and preliminary plats in accordance with these regulations, the subdivider may proceed with the preparation of construction plans and the final plat for the approval by the City Engineer and Planning Commission in accordance with this article. So the final plat application procedure, concurrent with the submittal of the final plat, the subdivider shall submit to the city engineer 2 complete sets of subdivision construction plans that shall include but not be limited to the following: grading and drainage plan, erosion control plan, utility plan and profiles of all proposed street improvements. The city engineer shall review and approve the subdivision construction plans and certify to the Planning Commission and Mayor and Board of Aldermen that the submitted construction plans and final plat are in compliance with the approved preliminary plat. Additionally, the city engineer shall calculate and present to the Mayor and Board of Aldermen the amount of any applicable performance surety. When the final plat conforms to the approved preliminary plat and the requirements of this article have been accomplished, the final plat shall be approved by the chairman of the Planning Commission and the plat thereupon submitted to the Mayor and Board of Aldermen for its review and final determination. When the final plat does not conform to the approved preliminary plat, the Planning Commission shall submit its recommendations to the Mayor and Board of Aldermen for approval or disapproval of the final plat. The subdivider or his agent must be present at the Planning Commission meetings scheduled to hear the submitted application unless otherwise advised by the Director of the Planning Commission. And letter D, after approval of the final plat by the Mayor and Board of Aldermen and required improvements are installed or appropriate arrangements have been made, therefore, a cloth-backed original plat shall be recorded in the office of the Chancery Clerk within 1 year, and if not filed, such plat shall have no validity and shall not be recorded without concurrence of the Planning Commission. Cloth-backed copy of the recorded plat shall be provided to the Planning Commission for its official records. And any land dedicated to the city for park purposes in a subdivision shall be conveyed to the city free and clear of encumbrances at the same time the plat of subdivision is filed. Said deeds to be without restrictions or covenants except a requirement that the land be used for park purposes without reversion and with references to the subdivision, if any, on which the land is shown. Next slide. And this is relation to planned unit development, which is what our case tonight is about. Any portion or tract zoned as a PUD district may be submitted for approval as a major subdivision, provided that the PUD district zoning regulations governing the approval of a preliminary site plan are met. In submitting any PUD subdivision for approval, the prior action of the planning commission and the appropriate legislative body in granting the zoning application shall be sufficient preliminary plat approval within the meaning of Article 4. No preliminary plat specified in this Article 2 shall be required. So this is gonna get into the details, that, I've prepared for y'all, for whether or not they either pretty much passed or failed each of these. The first one is the easements. It specifically says in the code that easements of at least 10 feet in width shall be dedicated on each side of all rear lot lines, and at least 5 feet on each side lot line, and at least 10 feet on all lot lines adjoining a street for poles, wires, conduits, storm and sanitary sewers, gas, water, and other utilities. The developer shall confer with all utility companies serving the property. Easements of greater width than normally required may be required as necessary. No side, rear, or front yard easements will be required where the city zoning ordinance indicates no yard requirements. So, it shows that, an easement of 5 feet is provided on all rear lot lines. However, based on the code, this needs to be changed to 10. And so, so it says easement of 10 feet is provided on front lot lines, and easement of 5 feet is provided on rear lot lines. So the developer should make sure to make this change on the plat. Next slide, please. Continuing with that, there's another code. This one's about protecting the streams. Whenever any stream or important surface drainage course is located in an area which is being subdivided, the subdivider shall provide an adequate easement along each side of the stream for the purpose of widening, deepening, sloping, improving, or protecting the stream or drainage course. The adequacy of the easement shall be determined by the engineer. It was determined that there is no relevant stream or water channel in this particular plat. So that's good. Next slide, please. So for streets, the code says that the arrangement of streets in all new subdivisions shall make provisions for the continuation of the principal existing streets in the adjoining areas or other proper projection, and for any streets or roads shown on the city transportation plan. Technically this is showing connectivity to the previous streets and then connecting down to Nail Road. So I believe that this meets this requirement. However, there is a slight question I have about the cul-de-sac on the west side. While technically I would agree that this passes this requirement, we're kind of curious about what would be coming in the future on the corner. Can you go back to the actual aerial view? So at the south east corner here, we're gonna have the cul-de-sac come to an end right here, but there's no houses at the end, and so it's literally just the very end of the empty cul-de-sac adjoining this lot line. And so the code technically is kind of strongly pushing for the planning commission to just think about how that would look if this were to get developed exactly as the plat shows, but then say a restaurant, a store, or a park, or gas station, literally anything comes right here, what would the connectivity be and how would that affect the connectivity and the traffic at that intersection? So that's just something to think about. Alright, can you go back to section 34, streets? Go down more. Next.
Right there.
Yeah.
There we
And then, so the next one's just, make sure you don't duplicate any names. There's no other McSwain Drive in the county, so the road name here is, perfectly fine. And then, letter C, it's asking that the arrangements of streets and lots shall give due regards to topography and other physical features of the property. This is a somewhat flat environment, so there's really no problems with laying it out there. And just one quick note, this probably doesn't have to go onto the plat, but the developer should be aware that there has been issues with not doing a great job of containing the sediment on the work site. And so we've had to send our stormwater people out and make them clean up the sediment that's washing into the neighborhood multiple times. And so we do have an eye on that, and we're going to be following up on that. We've had many calls about people saying lots of dirt's washing into their road in front of their house. And that's all on that. Next slide, please. Okay, the code is saying to make sure that the right-of-way widths and location of major and collector streets shall conform to the right-of-way widths and locations of such streets designated on the transportation plan. However, the planning commission may consider any other proposed street a major or collector street and require comparable right-of-way widths. This plat does not appear to conflict with any right-of-way widths or locations in the transportation plan. And then letter E says the minimum widths of street and road right-of-way measured from lot line to lot line shall be as shown on the transportation plan, or if not shown on such plan, shall not be less than the following. The minimum right-of-way width for local streets shall be 50 feet, except in cases where the topography or special conditions make right-of-way of less width more suitable. The planning commission may waive the above requirement. The plat does show all right-of-way measurements at exactly 50 feet, which is perfectly fine, and that actually matches the rest of the neighborhood, so that's actually a pretty smooth continuation. And from what we've looked at, it does blend in nicely with the rest of the neighborhood. Letter F says that the angle of intersection between the streets should not vary by more than 10 degrees from a right angle. Each intersection crosses at a right angle, so this is great. We're trying to move away from all the crazy swirls and crazy sharp angle intersections, so this is actually really good. The minimum corner radii at street intersections shall be 20 feet. The corner radii at the intersections surpasses 20 feet, as shown on the curved table of the plat. So if you're wanting to see that, you'll have to take a look at the actual plat. Street jogs resulting from failure to align streets on either side of an intersection are prohibited, and there's no street jogs presented on this plat, so that's great. And then cul-de-sac streets may be provided if proper access is given to all lots from a dedicated street or court. All cul-de-sac streets shall terminate in a dedicated right-of-way space having a minimum radius of 50 feet or other satisfactory arrangement for turning of vehicles, and a cul-de-sac street shall not exceed 500 feet in length. I measured it and it's way below 500 feet, and the radius is at least 50 feet. And, so technically that the cul-de-sac itself is of the proper size that we require. Next slide, please. So, this one's about the sidewalks. The code says that, concrete sidewalks not less than 5 feet wide and 4 inches in depth shall be constructed along both sides of all major and collector streets with curbs and gutters in accordance with applicable standard specifications of the city, and sidewalks shall be constructed along at least one side of every minor street shown on the plat, with the exception of cul-de-sacs where sidewalks are not required. And so, I put a note in here that sidewalks should be constructed along both sides of Andon Circle and McSwain Drive. And based on the wording of the code and the right-of-way width chart, the roads platted are considered local streets, which may be presumed to count as minor streets as opposed to the urban arterial, scenic arterial, or collector streets, thus requiring sidewalks on at least one side as a bare minimum legal requirement, although that would just look really bad, and it's nowadays very bad planning practice to just only put a sidewalk on one side. So the planning field standard is that a properly designed neighborhood must have sidewalks on both sides of any street to be considered more practical, safer, and represent higher quality housing. And that concludes the presentation. And this is a possible motion with just 2 conditions added to the end, if y'all would like to add them on there.
Thank you. So we're gonna open up, but first, is the applicant aware of I mean, have y'all talked to them about the deficiencies that was in this report?
No.
Alright, so,
But we figured that it's such a minor change. It was like, what, a 5-foot difference?
right, and then the 2 sidewalks,
Yeah,
sidewalks on both sides. I just want, you know, I know,
Yeah.
figure someone's here, but I just want to see if they were aware of it before they got here. Okay. So, anyway, do we have any questions for staff?
I have a question, that cul-de-sac area, so strictly speaking, you don't need sidewalks down there?
Technically,
And we wanna put sidewalks on both sides.
yes, so, this is up to the planning commission. It's technically not required under our code at the cul-de-sac, so pretty much where it circles around, you can end the sidewalk there.
But there's no houses built there.
Correct.
So there is a possibility that street could be pushed through.
And so that's
that
kind of
right?
what I wanted to discuss is maybe see if we can figure out some kind of solution to make it practical in the future. Because right now, can you go back to the actual plat? Just based on the fact that we don't know what's coming, it is kind of awkward. So, you know, it literally ends within feet of the lot line with no houses proposed at the end of the cul-de-sac, and then the empty land right here. So I don't know if it should be finished with the sidewalk all the way around, or if it will eventually be a street connected to that lot next to it. So that is kind of,
Well, earlier you mentioned maybe some sort of store on that lot. If that's the case, then they probably wouldn't punch a street through there. But we don't really know what's gonna happen.
Is
yeah,
there zoning on that particular lot right now for where it could be used for commercial or residential?
it's PUD, and then we dug up an old plat that says unrecorded commercial on that lot right there. So it's they wrote it down here for the intention to be a commercial lot. But the PUD was originally approved in 1990 under DeSoto County.
With the county.
Yeah.
How long has the, builder been notified that you're gonna have to add the, extra 5 feet
They have
to make
not been-
make it 10 instead of 5?
They have not been.
They've been
They have
notified
not been
at this-
notified? Well, the reason I was asking that, they've already got the streets laid.
Yeah,
They're already blacktopped, gas lines are in.
some of the sidewalks are in.
So if they're not within 10 feet like you're requesting now, what's gonna happen? Is it gonna stay this, let them stay as it is, or they're gonna have to change or, make smaller houses?
Well, this would just be for the rear lot line, so it shouldn't affect the houses themselves.
It'd just make the backyard a little smaller, technically.
Well, the houses, what you're calling the backyard, the houses right behind them are built all the way up to, Horn Lake Road.
No, there's quite a,
There's a
there's
large,
quite a large,
There's a
space
lar-
between Horn Lake Road and the back of those houses
there's a large,
on Ravenwood.
Well, it'd be the back side of their houses, the backyard of their houses, cause the two backs are backing up together.
In the back of that subdivision, the houses are gonna be towards Nail Road, from what it looks like.
Yeah.
Because it looks like they're putting up a retaining wall or
This would
something.
be Nail Road down here, and then Horn Lake Road would be like right here,
And-
is that
and-
commercial property, that's right. Right there.
And the front of the house will be facing north, is that correct?
Yeah,
And this is
Oh,
north.
yeah.
This is north. So these houses are in here, so then these would be back to back, this would be backyard, backyard, backyard,
Mhm.
backyard.
Yeah.
So what he's referring to is that the subdivision regs require for the rear yards, so this is, I think, setback lines, this is showing like, basically, like a building envelope per lot, but the easement, on the plat, is calling out in the notes is just 5 feet of width, but the subdivision regs require 10 feet of width on the rear, so that 10 feet of width there, and then 10 feet of width along here in the backs.
Any
on
other
the side towards Nail Road, they've already started putting up rebar or some kind of bar. It looks like they're gonna put up a fence.
Yes, yeah.
Um,
The applicant, there's somebody
towards-
here for the applicant, they can probably add some details, they have some.
So do y'all, do we have any other questions for staff? Alright, are you the applicant?
Yes, sir.
If you just, state your name and address for the record.
Alex Gagne, 1058 Greenwich Drive, Greenville, Mississippi.
Alright, so do y'all have any questions for the applicant?
Do you already agree to the terms of what they requested?
We can agree to the terms of, well, so I believe that all of these notes were adopted from the first plat, so that's how they've gotten here. But I believe we can move the rears to 10 foot if we need to. We just don't wanna go below the square foot minimum, it would be, could potentially be a problem, but, we can go to the 10 foot.
Talking about the lot square foot minimum, and will that happen on any of those lots?
Well, looking at this, I wouldn't be able to tell you that.
So,
And we could look at that before the board meeting if we had to.
what is the square foot minimum? I mean, cause it's changed 100 times. Do you know what the square foot minimum is?
Yeah, we checked, and so the last time the city, visited Ravenwood F, or considered it, was like in the summer of '21. And what they did is they approved a 1,500 square foot minimum for house size per lot on the 51 lots. I think that was in July of '21.
Okay.
So I think we're going way back. I mean, there was lots of other things that had been talked about, but the latest like official action by the city was in like, I think July of '21 at 1,500 square feet per house. That's our understanding from
So,
consulting with legal counsel.
okay, so my question is, I'm just looking at the plot, it looks, I mean, I, without really being able to see the numbers from here, I mean, cause it's really small type.
Right.
The only concern I'm having is in the east side, cul-de-sac, there's two very small lots that and I just wanna get in front of anything, those last two, the next one's over those and that, Because we've already had something come up where, lots were too small and then they had to come back and tell us, hey, we need to change something. So I'm just trying to figure out, is a 1,500 square foot house going to fit in those last two?
Yes, sir. The developer is aware, his goal is to develop 1,800 to 1,900 square foot homes in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why we wanna leave the 1,500 square foot homes in there for cases like that when we get in a tight lot.
Okay, that's what I was just checking on. And what about the sidewalks? Are y'all able to do sidewalks on both sides of the street?
We would like to follow the current neighborhood with, it only has sidewalks on one side of the street.
Any other questions for the applicant? You can have a seat, sir. All right, so do we have any other discussion or a motion?
If they're only gonna do sidewalks on one side of the street,
Well, that's what they're requesting.
okay, so who decides which side of the street the sidewalks are on?
That would be a Chad Barr question.
Oh, well, I think it could be up to the planning commission. I don't know if there would be a better preference. I don't know. I didn't look to see what the current pattern is, because sometimes you'll get a subdivision, especially like this, where it's multi-section, and you'll see a pattern. They're either on all on the north side of the road or the west side of the road, or they're all in the interior. Like I said, if you're dealing with a square or an oval or a rectangle or something, they're all in the interior, because that means there are actually less linear feet of sidewalk that
I
actually
think
gets
that's
laid
exactly
down.
what they did, is they chose what took the least amount of material.
Would it be a continuation from the, existing neighborhood? Cause I think it's already sidewalk there, you just continue it around, right?
Billy, could you scroll? I don't know if we can tell from the aerial one on the slide before, if we can tell. That's just.
Zoom in.
Pull up the map.
Yeah. Oh, I guess we can Google it.
Yep. Google's always is a great thing.
I think they're on the north side. No, they're on the south
They're gonna
side.
Google it up there much easier, faster than we can. They just gotta pull up the.
That's nice, where we can go to that feature,
Yeah.
and different things.
Just to see what we're looking at. There we go. If we can, okay.
Okay, so it looks like
Yeah.
here,
So,
it looks like they're doing it on the interior. Meaning that this is all Ravenwood, but what they did is like for this oval here, or this rectangle, they did it
Oh,
They did it in the
yeah.
smaller length. This is the shorter length. If they'd done it out here,
On the
it's a
collective
longer
streets.
length. So then over here, it looks like they did it in the internal. So, and then
So there would be a
what's
continuum.
proposed would be down here. So,
They'd have to get sidewalk here or something.
yeah, that's the bad thing, where there would be, whatever they do here with sidewalks, it's not gonna have connectivity with, to the north. So,
That's what I looked up, Sharon.
so these people could walk really well, maybe. But they'd have to go out into the street for a block or half block or whatever, so.
They just got on one side, right?
yep, so just the one side, so. Anyway,
It would be nice to have it, Billy, could you flip back to the plat? Yeah, it'd be nice if those could connect, and then, you have the sidewalk,
Yeah.
and it goes
Yeah.
through, and then regardless of what happens here, there's enough sidewalk that goes down that it could connect, so people actually walking could get to that, so they would have,
Yeah,
if you live here, you could actually walk to, let's say it's a gas station or whatever, a convenience store, instead of getting in their car and driving and going out and doing this sort of thing.
and that,
We see a lot of
that
that
would be
in
the
town.
ideal situation, is there's so many houses there. Just get people to stop driving everywhere. Have as many people as possible walk to whatever store it is, restaurant, whatever commercial things come in there. And that's why the sidewalks are just so crucial right there. But, our law is very weak here, so we technically
So,
can't require.
so does the commissioners have any other questions or any other discussion?
So right now, the cheapest route for them would be to do the inside, right?
Mhm.
Well, and with their lots would be doing the north lots. On the lots on the north, on the north side of their
Well, if they
project.
do the inside, that would include the cul-de-sac, and the curve from the other end.
Well, it's my understanding that because there's a cul-de-sac, they don't need to put sidewalks in there at all.
Well, he's
Is
talking
that
about, I think he's talking about that west side over there where where
So
it's a
you got
corner lot.
Oh,
Maybe he's
on
not,
the,
but
on the left over there,
On the
that
left,
goes
okay.
into, that
Yeah,
road goes into that other subdivision.
Yeah, that just counts as a regular street right there.
so you could do, I mean, we could make that, you'd have that sidewalk going up to the property line of that old subdivision. It look kinda weird, but yeah, right there,
Well, if you got
but it'd be something.
if you got sidewalks coming around already on one side and you come on new and you come around on the other side, you gonna
Was it-
stop right there?
But what
Was
about
there
those
sidewalk over there?
houses?
Was that sidewalk on this
Up
side?
for-
There was not one.
Is there a sidewalk in front of those houses?
There's not
No.
one.
Uh-uh.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, there's not one.
Yeah.
But no, down on the next section, right there, they see, yeah, so there's no sidewalks leading into the new section.
Right.
So what I'm saying is that you would be starting with that new section and creating so anyway.
So would the, south side be the best side to put the sidewalk on there?
No, I actually
Just
don't think
start it?
I just don't think it's gonna matter
Yeah.
either way. If we're gonna do one side, I don't think it's gonna matter which side you do it on.
Guess it could be left up to the, developer.
He's gonna take the cheaper.
Well, it's not, he's not gonna save enough money just across the street, that's all he's gonna save. The distance, putting sidewalks in be about the width of the street.
So now, I talked to Nick Croonin, who's on the engineering, he's with your same firm or whatever. He said that you guys were gonna do something about it, like a brick fence all the way along there?
Yes,
Is that what
sir. It was requested that we did, brick and cedar for the fence, but the developers agreed to do brick all the way through the whole fence.
Will it match the brick on the other side?
Say it again.
Will it match the brick on the other side?
It should match everything, I guess, but, that's fascinating, to be honest.
Any other discussion?
There's cedar on most of that on that side, isn't it?
I can't.
What?
I'd rather have the brick, cause the
Right.
cedar just rots and falls down.
The cost of brick and cedar is not that much difference right now.
Exactly. Probably brick's cheaper.
Is it
at
brick?
this
Is it
point.
brick? I think it's a brick.
Okay, so Mr. Barr, is there, at the corner of Loudon and, I don't know what the name of this street is. I think it's, see where Loudon Drive is there, right there?
Yep.
Okay, so if you go to the, right there and then go south, okay, could we require them to put a sidewalk in right there to connect to this
That road-
addition and then go east?
That is connecting. There is a curve connecting right there
Yeah, but
into
can you
that
ask-
street.
can
There's a
But can you-
street
Yeah,
that
there's a
comes out
curve.
right there.
There's a curve there, but
Can you ask to put sidewalks on somebody else's?
see, there's a sidewalk across the street going around the interior. And if there was a sidewalk on the other side, it would automatically connect and then go into this new,
Yeah, first
Subdivision.
you come here, then down here.
and then go right in.
Cause the street that comes out on Nail Road is the one there on the left and the one on the right. Those two streets come out to Nail Road.
That's correct.
That common area right there and where it stops, where you just talking loud, is that common area right there?
No, I
No,
think
that's
that's
a
part of, that's a corner lot.
That's a corner lot.
Okay.
So the developer would have to have a discussion with that landowner and then maybe like this landowner or whatever. So,
There's no right of way there or easement?
well, there's road right of way or whatever. I mean, lots of times the sidewalk will end up in the right of way.
Let's see.
Cause the right of way width is probably.
Yeah, it
about
actually,
that.
yeah. It
So-
actually continues out to, it's pretty even with the rest of it.
It goes over to the school property, doesn't it?
Makes sense to try to.
Yeah, it does, to the north.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does.
the road goes all the way to the, I think it runs into the school or some of, it right there, no, see, the school would be up,
No,
Right,
school's
there's a
over
school
there.
right there.
Well, there's a sidewalk there on the north side of the road. There it comes
You keep going, you run into a 7-Eleven.
and then there's a sidewalk, yeah, here. So, it would've been nice if they'd put a pedestrian easement split between one of these lots.
Yeah, I
Rather
thi-
than here instead, cause if
I
you're,
think there
if you're a
is.
child, you're here, then
I
you
think there-
walk.
I do think there is one there.
I
You
think
just
there
can't see
is
it.
one there.
There's one on the north.
I think
There's an
Because
access.
the kids used to come down the steps down there when I drove bus.
Yeah.
So there, I think there's one there on that south side. There's some
Yeah,
steps down
it's
there
one
somewhere.
over there.
Yeah, cause there's a lot of crazy no parking on this curve and between
Yeah.
these hours.
I just don't know where it's at, but I think, I'm almost sure there
I
is
wonder
one.
if it's here, cause there's no back fence here.
Right.
Probably.
And it goes right between those houses.
But there is one on the north side, can you pan? Yeah, there's one right here, this is a really good example here.
Oh, okay.
Even though it
Oh,
kinda
yeah.
takes you out into the middle of no man's
Well,
land or
maybe
whatever,
that's
it'd
the
been
one
nice
I'm
if there was
thinking
some.
I mean,
I don't
there,
think so.
I think there
there's
is,
one on the other side too.
but it may be one of those ones that's been, it's not like deeded that way. It's just kind of worked its way in over time. So let me ask you this.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think adding that little piece of sidewalk is gonna make it uniform with the rest of the neighborhood, and it'd probably be a whole lot less sidewalk than putting sidewalks on both sides of the street.
You can continue to flow according to their parent.
Director Barr. Quick question.
Okay.
I know we're discussing the sidewalks.
Mhm.
What legality, could there be any legality issues with us, basically telling a developer to develop sidewalks on an area that's not under the area? Cause I mean, that's, the only reason is cause I mean, they're responsible for the 50 plus lots, but now we're discussing them going north into the other subdivision or the other section to put sidewalks.
I think you could require it, but I think they would come back and say, well, whoever did this in the past, they've met the city standard by building a sidewalk on one side. And it looks like, I mean, down here, this was the end of this subdivision at the time or whatever. It would've been nice if they'd actually continued it across, at least on one side of the road.
And then the other argument is that if you go north of where the sidewalks are, those other ones don't have sidewalks around it, so you would see the same pattern. That's why there isn't. So I'm just saying, I'm just asking the question. I mean, I'm all for it. I just want to make sure we don't get ourselves into some legality saying and requiring something that's not, that we don't have a right to ask them. That's what I'm saying.
I
We
wouldn't
gotta
think
deal
we
with the
would have that
homeowner.
right.
Yeah, I would just stick to within
The plat.
the plat shown today. I would stick directly inside the boundaries of today's plat.
We could encourage the developer to have a discussion with looks like there's
Yeah.
what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different property owners and see if they would be willing to be, amenable to having a sidewalk installed or whatever. But I'm sure probably most of the property owners, I mean, if they're not being used, they probably won't wanna,
First question they're
Pay for
gonna
that,
ask you, who's
off and
gonna
on.
pay for it?
yeah, they're probably not gonna wanna pay for it or whatever.
Neither is the contractor, developer, that place 20, let's see,
Well-
that's been about, 11 years ago.
Well, if we don't require them to put sidewalks on both sides, they'll still come out way ahead.
I mean, the developers are always gonna do what's cheapest and not necessarily what's in the best interest of the people. So,
I mean, with the brick fence, that's great here, but it would be nice to actually have some points of exit beyond just the vehicular with the roads or whatever. Cause I can see, you're in here and you wanna walk outside or whatever, but you can't get out, there's this, this length of however long that is or whatever, several hundred feet or whatever, but you can't get out, you always can get out at the road.
Yeah, and there's a sidewalk going down beside Nail Road.
So-
Yeah. So you might wanna get out there and walk on that sidewalk.
So, be nice almost to be thinking about like a pedestrian, well, they might say, well, pedestrians can follow the road.
Right.
But,
Alright, so, any other discussion? Do we have a motion? So we don't have a motion yet. Do we have any more discussion?
Well,
So we're going with one side?
well, I'm gonna have to, well, I would have to say sidewalks on both sides. And maybe that would create a atmosphere of negotiations for these other sidewalks.
Well, if
You
you
would
put
want that,
sidewalks on
this
both-
subdivision though to match what's already there.
Well, I understand, but if we're just constantly matching what's there, we're never improving. And having sidewalks on both sides is a big improvement and a big advantage in a neighborhood. And if we're constantly just matching sidewalks on one side, we'll never have sidewalks on both sides.
So you're saying the ones, either sidewalks on both sides, or those at least 3 lots that connect the sidewalk from the other side to the
Yeah.
new plan unit?
Right.
Cause you're talking about really just 3 yards,
Right.
possibly.
But what if the
And you ain't even
and well, my
walk through.
question is, what if the homeowners decide not to do that?
Well,
I mean, I'm just asking the homeowner.
And that's why I was asking, does their property line go actually right up to the curb? And I don't think it does.
I think it's all within the city's right away.
That's what I was thinking,
So
that we,
it'd be a city project, right?
that it'd be a city project. They might feel like that's their yard, cause they've been cutting it for 20
I
years.
understand that,
But
but I'm just making sure, you know,
Yeah,
I just wanna make
I
sure
know.
that we don't.
And the design standards say construct along both sides of all major and collector streets. Is the one right down through the middle considered a major street? No, I think it's considered a minor street,
yeah,
which says
that's my
one
point.
side.
that's my point. One side is what the code may say,
Mhm.
but we're being asked right here by this suggestion to require them to put it on both sides.
Right.
And that's gonna add traffic when you bear those ingress, egresses off a narrow road going through that subdivision there too, so it's gonna be a lot more vehicle traffic, I would think.
Yeah, so you gotta think about it, somebody walking out the neighborhood, they technically be walking in the street. And then
They
come
walk
back
in the
there.
street everywhere anyway,
I agree, I agree with that.
even down Goodman Road.
I agree with that, but,
they're walking down Horn Lake Road.
And Hurt Road.
we keep
So-
the kids on
So,
the street.
okay, so they do have,
On the
there
other
is the easement is right around the edge of it, so.
Yeah, so there's sidewalk could be put there.
So here's the question. I'm just, like I said, I'm always asking. So let's say that we, on that particular property right there that they're showing, and we're showing a sidewalk. No, next one, down, down. So where do we end that sidewalk? Because if you go straight up from there up to it, it curves. So do we end it right into the street because it wouldn't match the rest of the neighborhood? Or do you, I mean, and if you curve it, then you're back to having something stop somewhere.
Well, it looks like there's a drain right there, so it'd be bad to stop it at the drain. You either have to come this way or kind of go around it, so people aren't walking over the drain or in the drain or whatever. So, excuse me, I would come up this way and either go this way or just come slightly around and then have the little like sidewalk apron, if you will,
And-
still out.
And that's gonna be like connecting the sidewalk continuing north.
This one's here,
Is that a ramp?
yeah, there's a sidewalk ramp or an apron.
Yeah.
And that black spotted drain to that,
Yeah.
There's a drain there, yeah. So there's a drain here, here, and here.
does the sidewalk end at the drain?
Just before it.
Just
right
before it, right there.
So you just be consistent on all sides.
So yeah, so you would, Just drop it right before.
So you don't need it on the left side, we just saying continue it at least on that one side, right?
Right.
So we looking at 3 lots.
Basically. There at whatever street that is, the one at Manchester and then the one at the very end.
And I think that would be a whole lot less sidewalk
They're doing both
than
sides.
doing both sides, and that would make it match the neighborhood,
Right.
and it would make a continuous flow around there. It wouldn't give us, maybe it wouldn't satisfy our objective of getting sidewalks on both sides, but maybe that's not a battle for this particular subdivision.
All right.
So with that in mind, do we have a motion? It comes back to that.
Well, I don't know, can the young man speak to that about whether
Yeah,
they'd be willing to do that or not?
Yeah, if the city could give us that right away, I'm sure we can talk to the developer and he would be fine, connecting it up to there rather than doing it on both sides.
Mr. Barr, can we give them that right away?
Well, it looks like they would build it in the right of way.
Yeah.
It would be,
They would be built, but we can allow it to be built there.
yeah, lots of times sidewalks are actually in the road right of way.
Yeah.
Even though, you may have to remove the snow or remove the weeds or
Yeah.
whatever around it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's actually dedicated to the public for public
Okay.
use or whatever. It's part of the right of way, transportation system,
So-
if you will, so.
So what are those streets' names? That's,
Well, here's Manchester here, Manchester Drive.
It's like,
And Circle.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Circle there, whatever. So,
Hold on a second, let's see what we can figure out. Are y'all on Google or GIS? Y'all on GIS maps, aren't y'all?
that's GIS, this is.
Okay, go back to the GIS. You should be able to go over there and hit go up to that suitcase over there on the corner there. Hit identify.
Y'all trying to get the streets?
No, and then identify that lot right there.
the owner,
Yeah, it'll click on it. It'll tell you the address.
Charlotte Armstrong.
It tells you the address and the lot number, so you can reference that if you needed to.
We try to keep that to me.
I wouldn't.
Doesn't matter.
So, yeah, so like, I think what you're thinking on the motion is sidewalk on one side, but then also make an effort to connect to the north, even though it's off-site, it's off development site on Endon Circle, that was what, Winchester? Manchester, and then there was one more. Banyan Drive.
So, and then, but it would be the east side street corner, so it'd be that one.
Yeah, I don't know if you want the addresses, this is 4421, this is 4333, and this is 4147, and those would be on.
Those are on Loudon, right?
Loudon Drive, yeah. Because the numbers get bigger as you go to the west.
But the sidewalks would actually be built on Manchester, Andon Circle, and Banyan.
Yeah, on those streets.
Put the addresses down so they stay.
South, that'd be
Yeah, you can say.
south of Loudon, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
south of Loudon, on the east side of Banyan's, Manchester Drive and Andon Circle, with the addresses of 4147, 4333, and 4421 Loudon Drive. I think given those 2 points could fix.
Did you say 4421?
Yeah, 4421 was the last one, 4333, and then 4147. Those addresses are all on Loudon Drive.
One reason I wanted that other one pulled up, because the driveway points to the other street. Sometimes when that driveway does that, the address is actually off for some reason, but the house faces toward Loudon. It's really weird how that works sometimes. All right, so do we have a motion?
Let me make a motion.
All right, so okay, go ahead and make a motion.
After review of the case of 2023-21, subdivision final plat known as Ravenwood Section F for single-family residential development located north of Nail Road west within the address block of 4,000 to 4,500 within the city of Horn Lake and by the Nail and Horn Lake LLC, Dustin Hamilton, developer and owner Nick Croonan, with Civil Link Engineering Company for the land zoned as planned unit development consisting of approximately 16.65 acres. The Planning Commission recommends approval with two conditions. Actually, this may be two conditions with sub-conditions, but change the rear lot easement to 10 feet from 5 feet, and to install sidewalks south of Loudon Drive, adjacent to 4421 Loudon, 4333 Loudon, 4147 Loudon, on the east side of Manchester, Andon Circle, and Banyan Drive, in order to connect to Section F.
But only show sidewalks on one
And-
side.
And eliminate item number 2.
But we want what?
Sidewalks on one side.
One side.
Right. We do want sidewalks on, these are,
On one side.
right, sidewalks on one side.
Okay.
Was that clear as mud over there?
Do we have a second?
I second.
I'll say,
All right, we have a motion. We
Okay,
have a-
first, who second?
uh,
Where?
Where?
Okay,
And Edgar made the motion.
okay.
All right, do we have any other discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Stokes,
Yes.
Commissioner Kirkley,
yes,
Commissioner Egner,
Yes.
Commissioner Ware,
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer,
Yes.
Commissioner McGann, yes. Motion passes.
All right, thank y'all. All right, moving on to our next case. So I figure get it up here. Case number 2023-25 RZ, a request for zoning amendment or rezoning from a C1 neighborhood commercial district to an M1 light industrial district at approximately 6480 Hurt Road by Stanley Thorne, landowner, and Chase Walker with IPD, engineer designer, consisting of a western 1.04 acres plus minus of a 2.5 acre parcel. So now I'll turn this over to our staff once again for their presentation.
So, the first slide shown here is the vicinity map with the zoning. So there's a lot of different zoning going on right here, and this is primarily the cause for this case. The applicant and staff were all in agreement that this whole case is just to simplify and bring one lot into one zone. So outlined in the yellow is the parcel currently shown on DeSoto County GIS. However, I drew a dotted line in there to break up the actual parcels that are going to be as the result of case number 2023-6, which was recently heard. So for tonight, the parcel that we're looking at is on the west side. So it's that horizontal rectangle, that rectangle parcel, where the east side is M1 zoning and the west side is C1 zoning. And so, just to clarify, in this exact parcel, one singular parcel, there's two zonings, and the goal tonight is to get it switched to one singular zoning. And so the applicant is requesting to make the parcel on the west side have the same zoning within its boundaries, that being M1, which is the blue shading, rather than have both C1 and M1 zoning in the same parcel. So next slide, please. And so this is just a description of the zoning districts in the code. In Article 4, We have neighborhood commercial district. The C1 district is intended to provide for retail shopping for everyday needs and personal services to serve the surrounding residential areas. The permitted intensity of land use within the C1 district is designed to minimize adverse effects on adjacent residential property. Generally, the C1 district is appropriately established at the intersections of major streets within residential areas. And then for M1, it has the title of Light Industrial District as a descriptor name. So it says the M1 district is intended to provide for a wide variety of light manufacturing establishments, including assembling, processing, storage, and distributing activities. No new residential development would be permitted except for watchmen and caretaker dwelling units. The M1 district should adjoin major roadways and access to railroads is desirable. The M1 district is generally appropriate for wholesale establishments, service industries, and light industries that manufacture, process, store, and distribute goods that are typically dependent on raw materials refined elsewhere. And so some of the regulations for a rezoning are as follows. Number one, proposed amendment to the official zoning map may be initiated by the Planning Commission, governing authority, or by application of one or more owners of property within that area proposed to be changed. Number two, the governing authority may propose amendments by forwarding its written proposal, which shall set forth the purpose and reason for such proposed amendment to the Planning Commission for processing in accordance with the procedure set forth in this article. Number three, the Planning Commission may make written proposals for amendments that shall be processed in accordance with the procedure set forth in this article. Number four, the owner or other person having a contractual interest in the property to be affected by a proposed amendment shall file an application with the Planning Commission, with which established from time to time by the governing authority. And number five, an applicant for amendment to the official zoning map shall have the responsibility to demonstrate the appropriateness of the change based on the following criteria. A, how the proposed amendment would conform to the comprehensive plan and its related elements as provided under section 1719 of Mississippi Code of 1972 as amended. B, why the existing zone district classification of the property in question is inappropriate or improper. C, what major economic, physical, or social changes, if any, have occurred in the vicinity of the property in question that were not anticipated by the comprehensive plan and have substantially altered the basic character of the area, which make the proposed amendment to the official zoning map appropriate. And D, demonstrate the public need for the proposed zone district amendment. And so the applicant wrote a letter to staff describing why this rezoning is necessary. We directly took this from their exact text, so it may not seem like it matches up with the exact wording from what I just read, but this is literally what was submitted to us. And so they have, for traffic circulation, they numbered certain subjects that they felt like should be addressed. And number one is traffic circulation. They said this site will have the same industrial type of warehouse building that the other two lots, A and B, have. The entrance will be off Hurt Road and will generate very minimal traffic. Only employees that work in the building will be only coming and going consistently. Number two, neighborhood impact. This area is all M1 zoning except for the frontage of Hurt that was never used as commercial use. This use will fit very well in this neighborhood as the visual features of the building is very nice. No excess noise will be generated by this use. No decrease in property values will occur. Visually, the site will have landscaping on the Hurt Road frontage and will be gated access only. Number three, zoning compliance and need. This lot is in an industrialized area, and this type of building already exists and would be a great use for this area. An M1 district is the appropriate zoning to allow for this use. Number 4, demand on public resources. Adequate water and sewer lines are adjacent to the property. This facility on Lot 1C will use very little water, about what one household would use. Since the city of Horn Lake already services this area with police and fire protection, no increase in personnel or equipment for emergency services is anticipated. There will be no permanent residents in the facility, so there will be no impact on the school or park system. Since this development is an infill development, the city will realize an increase in property taxes and fees without hardly any expenditure in providing city services. 5, relation to the comprehensive plan. This development is in compliance with the comprehensive plan since industrialized uses are specified. Number 6, buffers. There's no requirement for buffers between like zoning districts. However, a landscape buffer along Hurt Road is proposed. See Exhibit D on the site plan. There is an access easement to the existing detention pond that will be utilized by the city of Horn Lake. Number 7, improvements. The developer owner will install all the improvements shown on the site plan as well as lighting for the entire site. This lighting plan will use downward facing fixtures to prevent light pollution to the adjacent properties. Signage will be on the city of Horn Lake requirements. 8, phases of development. All building and site improvements will be installed all at once. And number 9, conclusion, is this development will fit the neighborhood character nicely with minimum impact on noise or traffic. It will, however, put to use a vacant parcel of land that will produce needed property and sales tax to the city of Horn Lake. And the last slide, I have a possible motion here. That is it for the presentation.
Alright, so does anybody have any questions for staff?
Andrew, if you go back to the, picture, the graph. Right there, yeah. How is, that C1 down there where you see those trucks?
Right here?
Yes.
You said how is it C1 or?
Yeah, because, wouldn't that be M1 and?
There's garbage trucks, isn't it?
Mm-mm.
I mean, I guess
No,
what he's
it's,
saying is how do we have another split right there with the building and all that? Was it oversight?
It's, well, this whole, actually, could you go back to the GIS? So, it's a long strip of C1 that goes north and south. So it's not just on this property. I mean, personally, I believe it's something that should probably be looked at in many other cases, but this is the first case that has been presented to us to make basically a correction that may make sense.
Is that Dover down the south of it too?
Yeah, it's where it was, yeah.
I gotcha. I mean, the old Dover place, yeah.
Yeah, I
And
worked
so,
there.
like, to answer your question, this was the zoning that has been there for years. I can't tell you how long it's been zoned like that, but it's just been like this for a long, long time.
It looked to me, if I may interject, it looks to me like it's kind of a classic attempt at a kind of a progressive zoning scheme. Because obviously you have the residential over here, in this case R8, and then you go across this road here, and then you got C1, which I guess would be the hope of various commercial uses. Then you got a little bit more intensity with C3, and then you graduate up to M1, which is like, you know, more intense or whatever. So see, to me, it seems like there's this kind of like stair step of intensity or whatever, trying to basically kind of shield or the residential district zoning and uses to the west over
And
here.
it just never actually got used for that intent purposes.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah, it was a guess at the depth and how that would be developed, but obviously they're developing here where they're putting in roads. There's Payne Road, this is Cole Road. This previous applicant has done a couple, as you probably remember.
Mhm,
They've
yeah.
got a similar use here and a similar use here, and they're just basically, they've got this parcel here that's got two types of zoning, and this parcel here has two types of zoning as well, as does this parcel or whatever. So, I've worked in other jurisdictions that said that when you had a parcel with, dual zoning, that you could just, take the majority of zoning of the parcel and say, call it good for the whole thing. We don't have that wording in our zoning ordinance or whatever. But this might be something that the city wants to look at. Obviously, the only change that there's been this PUD, which would be that space box, which is under development down here, changed to PUD, so that's a specific kind of custom type of zoning there. There is a zoning case that's still, undetermined here, where they were trying to downzone it from M1 down to like C4 or whatever, but that hasn't been determined. I think weren't you on that case as well? And then Ben Womble was, on that. He was like he was kind of like the person processing that. So, so I think that's why it's some of these properties, how they divided and how they developed more this way, but the zoning was more already in place going this direction or whatever. So, don't forget, this is also a public hearing,
Yeah.
rezoning, so.
Yeah, so, do we have any other questions for staff? Does the applicant have anything that you'd like to?
I don't have anything else to add, unless there's any questions.
All right, we'll open it up to the public. Go ahead, Mr. Francis.
I just want to go on record. My name is Francis J. Miller. I'll soon be 15-year voting resident of 5 to 14.
After this election.
And I want everything he has requested to be granted. I want the city to grant it. I love it. And I just hope there are no problems.
All right, is there anybody else that would like to speak? All right, we're gonna close the public hearing. All right, do we have any other discussion? Do we have a motion?
I'll just make one quick comment. This fix would make a lot of sense. However, just remember, it would be rezoning to put M1 directly next to residential. However, in reality, it's not gonna be like putting industrial right in front of a house. But you will be putting residential next to industrial. But what's already happened in real life is already there.
Kind of already happened.
So,
Yeah, the original plan been abandoned already.
yeah, it's pretty much maybe not previously good planning, but it's already happened.
Can't make it pretty now.
So yeah,
Too late.
that's all. That's the only comment I have.
All right, so do we have any other discussions or do we have a motion?
Will there be a buffer if needed for some type between the M1 and the
I
residential?
believe they said they're willing to put a buffer.
They're putting landscaping.
Yeah,
That's what it said in there.
So, however that'll look, I suppose you could, continue on to that if you want, but, I see a park, what looks like a park on the other side of the street anyway, so.
Okay.
All right, any other discussion? Do we have a motion?
Slow on these motions.
Well, I just figured if there's no motion, that means we have more discussion.
Well, Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner.
after review of case number 2023-21, a request for zoning amendment. Wait a minute, I'm reading the wrong one, aren't I?
No, you're right.
You're reading the right one.
No, you're reading the right one. Okay.
All right.
Well, I think, in the possible motion, shouldn't the case number be 25?
That's what I thought,
okay,
yeah.
I think it was just put in there
Typo.
correctly.
I
Yeah,
did have
23, 25.
I did have 25 on my.
Because the other one was
Yeah.
21.
Yeah, it's 23, 25 RZ.
Okay, request, yeah, all right, that's, yeah. It was correct on the agenda, wasn't it?
And then the
Yep.
SDFP shouldn't be there.
Right.
It should be RZ,
Right.
rezoning.
Request for a rezoning amendment from C1 Neighborhood Commercial District to M1 Light Industrial District at approximately 6480 Hurt Road by Stanley Thorne, landowner, and Chance Walker with the Ltd. Engineering Design, consisting of the western 1.04 acres plus or minus of the 2.5 acre parcel. The Planning Commission recommends approval with no conditions.
All right,
I'll
do we
second.
have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Mercer,
What am I supposed to say?
Are you
Okay,
appro-
Are you
I approve.
approving?
That's what I'm
Okay.
trying to- I forgot what. That's what's happened to you when you get 88 years old, you know?
well, he told me to mix up the names, so I'm mixing up the names. Oh, Commissioner McGann, yes. Commissioner Kirkley,
Yes.
Commissioner Stokes,
Yes.
Commissioner Egner,
Yes.
and Commissioner Ware.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so that's the end of the all new business, so we're going to other business. I'll turn it over to Mr. Director Barr for a comprehensive plan update.
It's just a rewind of the last two meetings or 2 or 3 meetings or whatever. The planning consultant is falling behind yet again. We do have an electronic meeting with them tomorrow afternoon, I believe it is. And we're hoping that they'll finally bring the rough draft of the plan to the advisory group, which then after it goes to the advisory group and then staff looks at it, if we want them to make any tweaks to it or whatever, they could bring the planning commission that updated rough draft, and then you'll have something to sink your teeth into and look at and go through or whatever. So that's not, it won't be to you guys in obviously November. It'll be probably, I'm hoping December actually. But now remember, the December meeting is going to be moved up a week. It'll be on the 18th of December, because if not, it would have been the 25th. So, so yeah, that's just kind of a repeat of what I've said the last 2
So
months.
would it be fair to say that we might really see it in January?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
I mean, December's great shooting for, but since we're shortening everything up a week for the
Yeah.
18th, it might be a little bit more
Yeah.
difficult. Okay.
So, we're disappointed in the planning consultant at this point, where they've fallen, because they originally said, oh, it was gonna be September, and there was October. It's not been neither one of those. It was not gonna be November either. So at the best, it's gonna be December.
Okay.
So, and it could very well be January.
All right, so are there any other issues on any of the other commissioners' minds?
I have a question for Mr. Barr.
Okay, go ahead.
On the motion, on the convoluted motion that I made with regard to all those sidewalks.
Oh, yes.
I'm pretty sure it was unclear, but I'd like to make it clear that I really want a sidewalk on that cul-de-sac, even though it's
Okay.
technically not.
On the east end?
Yeah, on the east end, even though it's technically not required.
Okay, no, I gathered that, and then it may come across differently than how you expressed it or whatever, but yeah, the idea is that there would be a connection to the north of the existing subdivision, all on those existing
Yeah.
roads on the east side.
Right.
And then the sidewalk would be on the north side in the new subdivision, but
Right.
then also extend to the east,
Right.
going through to the cul-de-sac.
And
there.
if something gets built over there,
People have a walkway.
either way, or more homes, their
Yeah.
sidewalk will go right
Yeah, no,
through. Okay.
no, I appreciate that. So.
All right, so does any of the commissioners have anything to add to the meeting? Open floor to the all. If not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll take a motion
Second.
to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn in a second.
I'll second.
That's my favorite.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the same. All right, we're adjourned. Never had anybody deny the fact they want to adjourn the meeting.
Airmail.